It's on.
Negative K, nothing further, just Kitty Corby in the corner. That's a direct order. Do it now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Well, we're almost halfway through the year, and we are Roll Call Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. I'm here with a few of my friends. I have D. Schoon, I have AC, I have Melba Blocker, I have Will Quick, I have William Herrera, I have Ty Green, I have Mark Matthews, Rich from the West Coast, Jerry Barrows is with us, and Kyle the Quiet Storm, and Jim the Troublemaker. Jim Kiernan is with us. We thank God for each and every one of you. We're praying for Derek, who's who's doing something different today. We're still praying for Jamel and Sharon, who's doing something today. But before we go any further, we're gonna have a moment of silence. Intro and a moment of silence. Okay. Cheech, will you give us our disclaimer, and then Melba, will you give us our statement of purpose?
Sure. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Before we get started, we wanted to go over a couple of things with you. First, we want to let you know that the comments made by members of Roll Call are the opinions of each individual. They are not intended to be any type of legal advice or suggestions. For any legal advice, please consult a local attorney or your local police department. Remember that the law has changed from city to city, state to state. Also, once in a while, we display graphic videos or photographs. We use these to spark our conversations and discussions. These are not the property of Roll Call. We get these videos from social media like YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and all that stuff, so they are available to the public. Some of them can be very graphic, so a member of Roll Call will let you know whenever one of those are going to come up. Also, the language used by members is very spontaneous. Everybody here speaks from the heart. We speak our own truths. So please do not take offense to it. You will see that sometimes we don't agree amongst each other, but we never take it personal. So we hope that you don't also. And that's it. Thank you.
Melba?
Good afternoon. As everyone is here, is well aware, we are roll call Black, White, and Blue for better relations. We have four basic tenets. We believe in, we are pro law enforcement. We are anti-racism. We believe in equitable policing. And most importantly, Black lives do matter. That's it.
Thank you so much, Cheech, and thank you so much, Melba. We're still praying for JT and his wife Orlando, Cheech and Anna, AC and Jeanette. We're still praying for you guys. Jamel and Sharon. Nothing's wrong with them, but we're just praying for them while they work on what they're working on. Derek and Deirdre as they're doing what they're doing today too. You know, I'm trying to keep from putting people's information out there because I don't want anyone to know what someone may be or may not be doing. So I'll leave that there. We want to say a very happy birthday to Colleen Bull. Her birthday was it was just the other day, so we want to say happy birthday to Colleen Bull. And again, I know I did it last week, but I just want to do it again. We want to congratulate Steve Wilson on his promotion. We're praying for our dear friend, one of our panelists, Melba Blocker. I want y'all to hear the Blocker piece. Melba Blocker, we're praying for you, and I'm happy that she's happy. So let me just put it there. And the other part is that I'm glad that we were able to be on the outskirts of what she was going through. So just know, Melba, you have a bunch of friends right here and those on Facebook Live. You have a bunch of friends. So just remember that. Keep that in mind. Also, pray for my mother-in-law. Her name is Ruby Sapp. She's in Winthrop Hospital right now, and we're praying that we can get her out there today. So I may be running out, but there's a group of guys and girls right here that will take this show right on through. Matter of fact, I wasn't leading today anyway. I'll get to that in a second. And praying for my mother, Vera Drayton. We're praying for the both of them in our lives. Today, we're going to have Will Quick. He's going to lead us in our conversation today. He knows what he's doing. He runs, he has a radio show. Let me see if I can find it real quick. He has a radio show. Oh, man, I just had it on here. 93.5 FM, The Oak. And he has a show on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock.
Correct.
Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. So if you're not doing anything, you can find it on Facebook, Facebook Live. I think he's on. I think YouTube, and look him up.
Not YouTube. You can actually stream it directly from the radio station website. If you Google the Oak 93.5, it'll bring up the radio station website, and you can live stream it from there.
All right. We like to promote each other, so that's why I did that. We like to promote each other, and we know that he knows what he's doing. So, Will, we're going to put this in your hands.
Okay.
And I'm going to assist by trying to get the comments on the side. And if CJ comes on because she said she may be late, she'll be doing it as well. So it's in your hands, Will.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone once again to another edition of Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. It's great to see everyone's faces. And D, if you want to carry us into our first video so we can get this party started.
Okay, her first video is going to take us to Harris County. I believe it's Texas, but let me make sure. But it's excessive force case. Let's take a look.
Like, I can't even see red or blue lights without my heart just beating fast.
Well, new at 6 o'clock and only on 2 tonight. Excessive force lawsuits are stacking up against the Harris County Sheriff's Office and now a former deputy.
This after a video captured that deputy body slamming a high school student. A new lawsuit just filed this week alleges civil rights violations after the arrest of 2 Langham Creek High School students who have since been cleared of any criminal wrongdoing.
KPRC2's Bryce Newberry joining us now from the Sheriff's Office with the victims' fight for justice.
This is now the 3rd lawsuit the Sheriff's Office has faced, all connected to this one former deputy who up until just a couple months ago still worked for a local constable's office. This new lawsuit has similar allegations as all the past, allegations of racial profiling, malicious prosecution, and use of excessive force.
Hey, what the fuck?
Just weeks before graduation, cell phone video captured Langham Creek senior Seth Palumbo being ripped from his car and thrown to the ground, all at the hands of former Harris County Sheriff's Deputy Christopher Bolin.
I remember being assaulted. I remember being scared. I remember my day completely being turned around and taken to a place that I couldn't even fathom.
Palumbo hasn't forgotten that April 2023 day when he got taken to jail and charged with assault of a peace officer. I'm not resisting, bro. After dash camera video showed those officers approach his car with their weapons drawn, claiming he made an illegal turn. 10 days later, the case got dismissed when prosecutors found no probable cause.
And never was I told what I did wrong. Never was I told what I was slammed for or put in handcuffs for, detained for.
Palumbo had just left his high school. He found out his football teammate ran out of gas and was on his way to fill up water bottles with gas to help him get back on the road.
I was absolutely confused on how it went from my son's run out of gas to he's potentially being incarcerated.
Christopher Willis Sr.'s son was the stranded driver that day, also accused of obstructing a roadway, a charge later dismissed.
Nobody made any attempt to de-escalate the situation as per their policy and treat these young men with any form of humanity.
Attorney Terry Henderson Peden filed this lawsuit this week, accusing Deputy Bolin and 5 others of violating the teen's constitutional rights, including unlawful arrest and abuse of power.
We're not going to tolerate this form of Gestapo-type policing, of racial discrimination and profiling of black men.
After an internal affairs investigation, Deputy Bolin was fired. Another deputy got suspended and transferred to another unit, while the sheriff's office says the 4 others received written reprimand. But records show just weeks later, Bolin got hired by the Precinct 2 Constable's office, where he worked up until February, when he resigned in lieu of being fired. The chief says he wouldn't have been hireable had they known his full past.
I have a high respect for those in uniform, so to see this happen and see him abuse his position, it just burns me up.
Willis doesn't want to see Bolin work in law enforcement again, now knowing his alleged pattern. He also faces an excessive force lawsuit for a different 2023 stop of this driver, seen on dash cam being punched several times. Why do you think that deputy treated you that way?
As somebody who is black and white, I'm not one to just sit here and play the race card, but it definitely felt a little racist.
This new lawsuit claims the sheriff's office fails to supervise and correct wrongful and illegal behavior of deputies, citing previous issues with Deputy Bolin and his former crime reduction team. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office says they can't comment on pending litigation. Reporting downtown, I'm Bryce Newberry, KPRC 2 News.
This is going to be one to get into. Jim, let's kick us off, man.
You know, this is an example of something we talk about almost every week, about how one department hires a bad apple from another department, doesn't know what their past was. And that really kind of leads me into this new wave of no federal oversight in any police department. I think it was you, Will, that reminded us that there was a federal database being used. Okay, now, you know, the Trump organization is not going to have any part of that. But when you think about it, that's exactly what's needed to prevent this. Because every department before they hire should be able to go to a federal database and find out if an officer was fired for some kind of violation of abuse of force or something. And that would stop this. You know, it's not going to happen in the next 4 years, but maybe afterwards it'll happen.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Jim, because the database actually shouldn't be necessary. Because when everybody that fills out an application, they have to put down prior employers. And if the background check does what it's supposed to do, I shouldn't need a database with these individuals, because if I do the appropriate background check and I get to a department and they give me truthful information about this officer's separation and their performance, that should be sufficient. But unfortunately, that can't be trusted. So you got some systemic issues going on within some of these departments.
The problem with that, Will, is when you do department by department, state by state, town by town, it's all going to be different. They're going to say, oh, in our rules, we can't give you that information. You know, you're going to have local ordinances. You got to federalize this. It's got to be a national bank. Otherwise, it's going to be just like gun control. willy-nilly all over the place.
I see your point, but unless it's something different, most every agency I know, every applicant has to sign off on a waiver that they can present to a department to say, listen, this applicant has signed this waiver. So what information that you might be bound by your law, this applicant has waived, and we need this. So now if I present this waiver and they still don't want to give me information on that guy, now my flag is going up because I got an issue with that guy and I got an issue with that department. So that guy doesn't get hired. D, what you got?
Well, I would like to share a little bit about the hiring, but I want to go in a different direction. Let me not do that. Somebody else will probably say that. First of all, to the listening public, when you stop by law enforcement, you have to comply. So many bad things can happen during that situation. Getting thrown out of the car like that, bones are broken, you could hit your head. We could have a whole bad day. So I want to tell everybody, getting stopped, you have to comply. Now, I'm going to assign this officer to one of our groups only because they said the beginning of the stop was because an illegal turn. Now, most of you saw the gun was drawn during the illegal stop. That brings me to our segment, Lunch Money Victim.
Early on, let's get into it.
I've stopped thousands of cars. There is no reason to have your gun out for an illegal turn. I started thinking in my brain, how many times have I had my gun out on a V&T stop? If it's out, do you understand? Do you understand in my patrol career? Imagine if I had my gun out 7,000 times. Yo would be looking at me like, what the heck is wrong with you? And it seems like some officers, that is a way for compliance. And that's not what compliance is. That's not why that gun is there. And that's definitely not why it should come out. We're having these kind of officers that they're hiring, and they're lunch money victims. I'm gonna call you that. And those officers out there, please listen, you can come see me. Lunch money victim. When you act like that, that's what you are. I'm in the high schools teaching all the time. They're high school students. I know they're big, but they're high school students. The biggest high school student, there's a way to control him. It don't have nothing to do with gun. It don't have nothing to do with throw him on the ground. If you have your presence, your authoritative presence, that's what you need. But if you're I'm gonna do it again, lunch money victim, you don't have an authoritative presence. So immediately we got to go to guns. If you're on stops and you're pulling out your gun all the time, officer, you're responsible to the public and to yourself. Notice I have my gun out on every stop. Maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should get in the room of guys on the roll call and figure out why it's necessary for me to have my gun in my hand. Because I'm going to tell you, with your gun in your hand, in those situations, you're at a disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage. You're a one-arm. I said it the first week I was here. You're a one-arm bandit. There's very little you can do, and it's usually not your strong arm. So again, the public, comply. Please comply. Because I'm sorry, there are all lunch money victims out there. And the idea is to do everything you can. Take your ticket. You don't want to argue. Let him do what he has to do. So you limit the time you have to be with the lunch money victim. Get home. There's a process. But don't get thrown on the ground. God forbid, don't get shot and don't get hurt. That's it.
Couldn't agree with you more, D. I'm sure there's some folks out there, because they know the way, or they're familiar with the way our Constitution and our laws are, they'll say, okay, well, this is an unlawful seizure and the Constitution allows for me to resist unlawful seizure. Okay, well, you can be right, but you can be... I think we know where we're going. Rev, what's on your mind? Unmute, sir.
You're on mute.
You were talking about releasing information, and I was like, that's why the public needs to know that every jurisdiction, every locality, and I think Jim was saying that there are different laws, different rules, and so some people may release it, some may not release it. And in your state will, that may be something that they do. But in New York, it was at one time where you couldn't get that information.
Even
You
with
can
a
try all
waiver?
I don't. You have to ask Mark about the waiver park. I don't know anything about a waiver.
We didn't have.
But okay, I'm about to say I don't. I never heard of a waiver. But no. So again, that's the importance of realizing that jurisdiction, that's what goes on. That one, that goes on. This one, that goes on. And then Jim said it. That we need something federal. Because when
Wow.
everyone has the right to do what they want to do, then guess what? Sometimes we won't be able to get information. And not only will you not find information about a bad cop, you won't even find information about a good cop.
I stand corrected. And you're right. It's probably just my experience here in North Carolina.
Right.
To me, that just seemed like the right thing to do, like reading somebody their rights before you question. That just seemed like the thing that you're supposed to do. If you got an applicant and you're doing a background check, in order to get information that otherwise would be protected by employment law, they sign a waiver.
That is our fuss on this show right there, what you just said, right there. You got Jim got a finger up.
Jim, what you got?
Will, just what you said when you said the rights to be read before, that's a federal rule. That's why that works across the nation, because it's the feds that make you say that.
Right. What you got for us, Rich?
Just addressing what the Rev just talked about, I got a couple points by that. I believe any background investigator that's worth their salt will get around all the rough edges by saying, is this person eligible to be rehired at your department? Right there, that gives an indication without any information at all. Just as that person qualified to be rehired by your department, you can ask that question. And if they say no, then as an investigator, that's enough for me to say DQ, because that department doesn't want him back. That's my thing. But anyway, it's up to everybody's assessment of that situation. But I think if a department doesn't want to hire you back, bad news.
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Will.
I was going to say to that point, because I have lived experience in that situation. I had a department violation where I was held to the letter of the violation. And as a result, they were preparing to terminate me, and they allowed me to resign because I did question some of the things with regards to it. And it's a much longer discussion. I'd be happy to have it with someone, or if the opportunity presents itself here. But my point being, with regards to whether or not you will be eligible to be rehired at that department, I feel like it's still incumbent to do a full background check, because as we said, different things happen with different departments. Stuff can be motivated to move that officer along that has nothing to do with their job performance. So I think to hear both sides of the story is important, and that's the nature of our work. It's always about hearing both sides of the story.
No, well, I agree with you. I was just saying that's a question you can ask. I think it should be a full background. Everybody should be treated fairly, okay? I'm just saying that's some information you can get if you're not getting anything else from them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, full background check, I agree with you totally.
Okay.
Now, the second point I wanted to make was we talked about the officer having his gun out. And what we have here, you have two sides of having your gun out. You either have an officer who is scared to confront people, and they find that gun is a crutch for them, that's going to protect them because they run around scared. Then you have the other ones that have the gun out because they're in fear of the black hat, or they want something to happen. They're looking for it to escalate. So it's either two things. We're pulling your gun out for a wrong turn. Both of those are wrong. If you're operating like that, you should be on the job. This month is the 5-year anniversary of George Floyd. And that's when we started. I got on here 5 years ago when that went down. That's an extreme story of excessive force. You knee on somebody's neck until they expire. That is, I mean, unarmed, handcuffed, knee on the neck. We can't normalize that. That is horrendous. People actually, I got to see a person being murdered by a cop on TV. So, you know, it's just food for thought there. I just, that's why we got together was excessive force. But what I do like is now officers are being held accountable. They're being fired. They're being prosecuted. Well, years ago, it didn't happen at all. So that's all I got.
Did you notice the newest executive order that was recently signed by the sitting president?
Which one?
There's an executive order that he just signed, I think, on the 28th of April to I guess shorten it up. It is going to open the doors for behavior that we have been struggling to hold bad cops accountable for. It's basically going to give a lot of those situations a pass. And as you can see, the way he pardoned those two officers in DC as his way, I guess he got back in with law enforcement after he pardoned the individuals that hurt law enforcement from January 6th. It's getting real serious out there. It's getting real serious. Mark, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I did the background investigations. There are certain things you can say. There are certain things you can't say. I'm not going to risk my job trying to let another department know this cop shouldn't be hired. It's just you can't. You're not going to do it. You're not going to risk your career breaking that law. But the bigger problem is, I think Will touched on it, where if the department usually, unless you work in a right to work state, the department has to go through a trial. And it's, trials are not 100%. You could have somebody dead to wrong, and guess what? They still beat it. So that's the problem with a trial. So municipalities would rather give the officer the option of just resign, and then you can go to another job. It may not be fair to the public, but that's the way it is. You have to look at, and the municipality looks at, well, it's cheaper to just let this guy go, and then he's going to do whatever he's going to do. So that's the dilemma, and what Jim talks about with a federal would help, because then that information could be put in. The things that I couldn't say as a supervisor when another department called me about one of my officers, the only thing, you couldn't say anything negative. So the only thing you could say is, Donald Butler worked in this police department. That's it. And they would ask you questions, and Donald Butler worked at this police department. And the smart ones would kind of figure it out. Oh, okay, I got you. I could say great things about him, but you can't say negative things about him. So when they kept asking me questions, I just kept repeating. The guy's like, okay, I got you. Thanks a lot. But that's on them. That's incumbent on them to draw the lines, not on you to risk your career trying to let this department know. But once again, like I said, if they decide that they're going to resign, it's not really too much that you can do.
It is a delicate balance trying to say something without saying something, because like you said, you have to operate within the laws and guidelines. And clearly where you all work, it's significantly different than the way they do it down here. Melba, you're up.
So I guess my thoughts were more so for Jim, because I understand, like, my understanding of this is right, is that these police agencies that are backing this type of legislation, what are they playing, checkers, or are they playing chess? Because because they're throwing rocks and they're hiding their hands. They said, oh, Well, your partner, your department, the officers, we believe in our police officers. We're going to take care of them in the case they get a little rough with these people. But they're trying to dismantle their police unions, which have been protective of the officers for whatever. They're taking away your bargaining agreements. They're taking away the power of the police union to bargain and to protect the officers on the other end. So it's like, what are you choosing? You'd rather just be able to whoop on people willy-nilly versus having a union that will protect your wages, protect your health care, protect all the protections besides just you being a rogue officer and being able to do what you want to do, but protect your lifestyle. What is that?
It's a peculiar business that we're in with law enforcement. All of us know the history of this profession, and there's still a lot of that history that exists within these circles, where you want to call it the good old boy, you want to call it the friend nepotism, whatever the case may be. But for a profession that is constantly struggling for validity, exactly, slave patrol, that's the origin of our profession. We're never going to get away from it. Mark, you got your finger up?
I thought Jim was going to answer because that was directed toward him, but let me just jump in. So, Melba, you also got to realize this is nationwide. Some departments, besides the FOP, don't really have a union, so the questions that you ask really don't apply. The bigger thing that the average cop is looking at is more job security than what their wages are. Their wages are their wages. And even if you have a union or you don't have a union, they can only do so much. But when you do something and you make a mistake or you go too far, more cops are going to be concerned with keeping their job over a intentional or unintentional mistake than how much money they're making this next time around. That's just my opinion.
And I'm going to concur with what Mark said, Melba, that there are many departments without the kind of union that we enjoyed, that bargain for our benefits and defense as well. And when you think about it in terms of any job at all, whose top administration, President of the United States, says, "Don't worry about anything you do. I got your back." Think about that. And Mark said it. Intentionally or unintentionally. Every cop knows you can unintentionally do something that you could lose your job for. Well, you don't have to worry now because you're going to be protected.
But
morally, it's hard.
Do you? Because aren't they also in states that they could fire you without cause?
There's the other side of that. You're 100% right. But in a lot of those states, Melbourne, they could do that now, with or without Trump. And I'll tell you what, you're better off. Well, never mind. I won't say what I'm thinking.
I'll say it, Jim. So in those other states, a right to work state, if they're not pressured, Cheech slam some guy or slam some kid or some guy on the floor. Now I'm not pressured because of Trump's new law. I'm not pressured to let him go. Guess what? I don't have to do it.
Nope, not at all. Ty.
So I'm going to address what Jim said. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, about the new federal, the new order that our sitting president wrote and signed into. At the risk of redundancy, and I've been saying this since about 4.5 years now, Jim, that it's all done with purpose, man. They're looking for us people to rebel. They're doing it anyway. Not so much getting away with it now. But now that the president has put this new executive order in, it gives them total autonomy to bolo from the old school days, anybody they want to, anytime they want to. And I really feel like police officer's not smart enough to realize what he's doing. He's going to incite a response. There's no way that any citizen, this kid was ripped out of his car because it's Tuesday. Had nothing to do with the wrong turn, had nothing to do with anything. They had their guns drawn. They were looking for a fight. And if the top executive officer of this country is saying, I want you to go look at that fight, I want you to go find that fight, do you think it's going to get exponentially worse or better? It's probably going to get exponentially worse, which is going to sooner or later incite a response. And that's exactly what they want. They want people to start fighting back. It's just so crystal clear to me. It has been for 4 years now that they're doing this on purpose. They're looking for us to make one city to beat a cop down for doing this. Watch what happens. There'll be tanks on Terrace Avenue. I'm telling you right now, that's what they're waiting for. I'm telling you, that's what it feels like to me.
That was a part of the executive order, the availability of military personnel to
just in case
supplement and support law
just in case.
Exactly.
How long have I been saying it, Jim? I've been saying it for like 4 years now, right? I'm telling you that is what frightens me. Yep. That's what frightens me. Because military they're not like police officers.
No.
They are, it's not a question. It's a directive. And you will comply. And it'll be a whole different, just scary
times. And they're taking
their
marching orders from someone who has absolutely zero understanding of interpersonal relationships, zero understanding of empathy, zero understanding of de-escalation.
It's all part of the way.
I'm the authority. I've got the biggest stick, so I'm gonna swing my big stick.
And if you have martial law enforced, can we change presidents?
No.
No.
Yeah, he stays in power.
Are you paying attention or not? I've been saying it for 4 years now. And now we're getting closer and closer. I'm done. I'm just gonna. I got plenty of guns. I'm ready. You know what I mean? D-School, I'm ready.
Mark, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, so you're looking at a president who wanted to weaponize the military against the civilians. But let's not be fooled. Only certain civilians. If you're white and you got a tan, you better watch your ass. But if you're white, you're going to be okay. But if you are a minority of color, you better watch yourself. Now he's looking at weaponizing the law enforcement brotherhood against minorities. You get a group of Proud Boys or whatever that's out there having a rally, it's all good. But you get Black Panthers, you get Hispanics, you get any other type of minority out there, and they, Million Man March, and you get the brothers out there. Guess what? Guess what they're gonna be? They're gonna be guys waiting with automatic weapons, waiting for somebody to step off that curb, make a mistake.
It's called MAGA for a reason, and while they won't be honest enough to be bold enough to truly explain what that means to them, they are definitely showing us with the things that they're doing. AC, what you got, man?
You're on mute, eh?
I haven't heard of. I'm just hearing about this executive order. I've been away from news lately. So as I understand it, the federal government is taking over states' rights.
In a manner of speaking, give me a second. I'm pulling it up now.
If you're federalizing the response to state issues, you're superseding the state in their state, within their state.
I think it was directed to the DOJ to AC. So when it gets there, it ends there, and Jim said it earlier, where not only to defend them, but pay their expenses also.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about not just, I'm talking about bringing in federal troops.
Let me read some of the excerpts real quick. It's a presidential action executive order dated April 28th, strengthening. And then listen to the verbiage now. Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement. Did you hear me say unleashing?
Unleashing.
unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. Who are the criminals and who are the innocent citizens?
Mm-hmm.
And then this goes into section 1, purpose and policy. Said communities rely on the backbone and heroism of a tough and well-equipped police force. My administration is steadfastly committed to empowering state and local law enforcement to firmly police dangerous criminal behavior and protect innocent citizens. Didn't feel that way with the January 6th. Ty, you got your finger up. What's happening?
Yes, so I want to tell you how important what Donald just said was, because that is an invitation to escalation by law enforcement officers. The way it's written, that you're going to be protected, it stops here, no matter what. And if it does get here, I got your back still. Remember, he said, if you bump the head, when you lock them and put them in the car, you bump the head on the roof, it's okay. I mean, I'm telling you right now, guys, it is clear as day to me. Clear as day.
Yep. It goes on. It's got like, I'm looking at a total of 7 sections.
Okay. My question is based on bringing in military. My concern. No, other parts concern you also. But if the state, the governor of the state doesn't request the National Guard, you going to actually bring in the military to supersede that?
Here you go. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and local law enforcement.
The answer is yes, AC.
To assist. To assist. So that to be requested. Am I understanding that correct?
It says shall increase provision. So basically making it easier to bring them in.
All right. So they didn't take the sovereignty from the state. They're just giving them more arms.
Yep. And it's baby steps, AC. They can't do it all one fell swoop, but that's not going to work. They're going to need to do a piece at a time.
Melba, what you thinking?
I'm thinking, so we're all clear, and so everybody understands this. They're calling the U.S. military on its own citizens. They're calling in our military to attack its own citizens. And I wish I had, also that reminds me, like, I think it was last week, South Korea had that issue where their president attempted a coup, wanted to call martial law, and those people came out in the streets and they blocked off and they locked out members of parliament that were not in favor of calling martial law. Those people went to the streets. They fought the military. They were helping members of parliament jump the fence, break in, whatever matter way they got in to make it to that vote so they could vote down that president and also calling martial law on its citizens. So this is not just a United States problem. So we need to be very clear that we need to pay attention to what's going on in larger society with these governments trying to use their military might against its own citizens for control. That's what I'm thinking.
Like Germany.
It's a lot to unpack. And for our listeners out there, I know sometimes it may seem like we circle back around to some of the same things as far as causality, but it's called common denominator. And a lot of things associated with law enforcement, particularly in this day and time, are circling back to trickle-down policies and what ultimately wind up being bias-based practices and empowering people to act in that manner when we spend all this time as a profession to maintain validity with the community and build relationships, and that's being torn down with the utmost quickness. Anybody else got any thoughts on this one? Yes, sir.
Yeah, even with, that's definitely a terrible executive order to put in place. But for a good cop, that really didn't change anything for them because they're going to be good anyway. But for a cop that's looking to get over, a cop that's looking to abuse without any repercussions, Ty said it, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to go ahead and do it, and we got your back.
Jim?
Donna, I'll disagree with you just this much.
Okay.
Even
No,
good cops have their day where they would like to slap somebody upside their head. Now they
That's
can.
true.
Now
No,
they
no,
can.
that is true. That is true. But most of them, from what I know, will not do it, even though they feel like it. I just said something to another pastor the other day. He said, you really shocked me by saying that. He said, it was funny hearing that coming from your mouth. That's what he said, because like, you don't usually say something like that. I was like, well, some people just annoy you to no end. And even though I felt like I wasn't going to do that anyway, I'll tell y'all later on when we get off the air though. But it's like I felt a way, but I was like, you feel that way, but that's not what you're gonna do. And I think most good cops will be pretty much like that. I feel like knocking this person upside their head the way they're coming at me, but that's not how I function. That's not how I work. It's not how I do things.
Rev, I'd be inclined to agree with you, but for me, here's the problem. As a profession, we're only as good as our worst member, because those are going to be the images that they're going to judge us by. No matter how many good deeds we do, no matter how composed we remain, our judgment is always going to be based upon our worst member who does something that gets to be out in the public. Mark?
Yeah, so, I hear what Donald's saying. Most good cops won't, but it's just not that simple. You don't have your good cops and your bad cops and nothing in between. And it's that in between that says, okay, well, if I do this, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'll go ahead and do it. And that's where you have that snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you have to worry about. I agree with you, Don. Most good cops who aren't like that, you look at, I'll pick somebody on this board, AC, as strong as he was, he just wasn't that type of guy.
Right.
You really, really had to push his buttons, and then he still showed restraint. But you get a guy who only doesn't do it because he's afraid of the repercussions. Now he doesn't have to worry about the repercussions. He might be more inclined, not all the time, but on times where somebody just gets under the skin and he loses it. And
I
it's
agree.
a snowball effect.
Everything you guys said, you and Jim, I didn't look at it as a disagreement, because there's not all a person who's a good cop may do some bad things, or may get angry and lose his temper as well with no repercussions. So I'm with you guys 100%, and I definitely don't look at it as like a disagreement, but it's another thing that could happen with that executive order.
Sure. Look at how many MAGA cops that we work with that we
Mm-hmm.
knew that were MAGA.
You just said it.
For that frame of mind because of the rules. But
you just said it.
But all of a sudden, it's hunting season. Well, guess what?
I got you. I got you.
Rich.
Yeah. How does this affect department policy, though? Policy and procedure still lays out, but for that particular agency, if you violate that policy, you're subject to be terminated or punished, or days on the beach. That executive order doesn't save you from that. Your department can still do what they need to do if you've done something out of line against that policy. Am I right or wrong?
They can.
Yeah, somebody has to enforce it.
But they'll be less pressured.
With the backing of this administration, they're going to take the road of least resistance.
The policies will change. They'll change the policies to fit the federal law. That's what they'll do.
I think Mark was trying to say something, but
to protect themselves from lawsuits down the road, they will make their policy adhere to whatever the federal guidelines are, even if they're bad ones.
Yeah, if they're not being
not good.
pressured, if they're not being pressured to do so, then like Tyrone smacked somebody. I don't have to worry about somebody looking over my back saying, "How come you didn't do it?" Well, even if it is my policy, I just find, you know what, Tyrone, knock it off. I don't have to worry about the policy because I don't have anybody to answer to. I don't have anybody that's going to come in and say, "Wait a minute, Tyrone did this. This is your policy. What did you do?" If I don't have that to worry about, I don't have to enforce it. I can enforce it when I want to. When Donald smacked some white guy, then, hey, Donald, what the hell are you doing? But when it's the other way around and you got a white cop who's a MAGA who does that to a minority, well, guess what?
Slapping pies.
Just don't be so rough next time. Only knock his head up against the thing one time.
Yeah, but this isn't federal law. This is an executive order. There's a lot of illegal executive orders. All somebody's going to do is actually file a lawsuit against that executive order, right? Because it's not law.
A lot of damage can be done before they do that, though. You know how the courts work. It's going to take,
I understand that.
Years for that to get undone.
But if I'm not mistaken, an executive order, unless overturned by a court, is law. I mean, you can't violate an executive order.
It gets removed one of two ways, either by court appeal
or new president.
I take it back. It's supposed to be removed one of two ways, either by court appeal and the court rules against enforcing that executive order, or that president is no longer in office and the successor undoes it. Those are the only two ways it gets undone, unless Congress steps in doing their job and saying that an executive order runs afoul of what they do. We know that's not going to happen.
Right. I just want to just get in some of the people online.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Okay. I got to get to David Van Cleef, so he has some stuff. The farming community has FO, so they should be voting for change. He also says, what about the good cops that look the other way or condone bad behavior? And I guess that's more so on what we've actually discussed that before a long time ago. We discussed that on many occasions as well. I think he's talking about as far as executive orders is concerned right now too. That now this good cop can just turn his head and look the other way and don't have to pay attention and worry about the repercussions behind it at all. And then you have Donald Coleman Rich. They might have a supervisor that might go along with them. Okay. That's for sure. David Van Cleef also says, this is a cancer eating away the ethics of best police practices. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And like Jim said, the executive order is a law of the land for right now. So it is a law. And you can't go against an executive order without some repercussions. So you better really think about that as well. We're in a bad situation. We're in a bad situation. It's back in your hands, Will.
Okay. Unless anybody else has got something else to add to this, D, be ready to move it to the next video?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Our next video is going to take us to Bismarck, North Dakota, or you honeymooner fans. All right. I made you myself. This woman runs over a couple of police officers during a vehicle and traffic stop. Let's take a look.
Turn off the car. Turn off the car.
No.
299, keep fleeing.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Get out of the car!
Background.
299, she almost struck me.
Get out of the car!
Wow. Wow.
Shots fired! Hands are hit! Show your hands!
299, give me Metro, she struck me. Shots fired.
Show your hands! Show your hands!
Back up! No, back up!
Show me your hands!
Fuck, I can't move.
299 headquarters.
All right, another angle.
Go ahead. 1140 South 12th Street, Natalie Shelter. There's a white Chevy Equinox at the church beside the Natalie. 911, the texter said the occupant is 55 and getting escalated. Again, 1140 South 12th. 10-4. 89 copies.
Hi, what's your name, ma'am?
Why are you calling? Why?
We got called to come check on you. They were concerned.
There's nobody concerned.
There was. We got a phone call.
For
What's going on today?
who did you get a call from?
I don't know. It was an anonymous caller saying there was a white.
I know,
Trooper
that's
sitting
what they keep doing that. You know, they did that in Nebraska with my children. They keep calling in false reports.
Okay.
Nothing. I don't think that it's okay for people.
I can't help but the people call, and it's my job to come respond when we have a call in, to come check on people. Okay? Now, my concern is coming out of... My concern...
Your concern is you know everybody that
My
I'm dealing with.
concern is that the car smells heavily of marijuana. When's the last time you smoked any marijuana in here?
Other people have smoked marijuana in here, and I don't want to get into that because then they're calling you on me.
Other people have, you don't smoke any marijuana.
I have medical marijuana. I had my card.
Do you have a medical marijuana card?
I had one.
Do you have one? Current? No. Okay. Have you step outside of the vehicle here?
No, you're not.
Turn off the car. Turn off the car.
No.
299, she's fleeing.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Get out of the car!
Now!
299, she almost struck me.
Get out of the car!
Ah!
Not fire!
Ah!
Hit! Show your hands!
299, give me Metro, she struck me. Shots fired.
Show your hands!
And so as soon as I heard that, I put two and two together, like, just peeping, like, hearing the, you know how you turn in the gravel scratches? Yeah, I heard that. And then that's when I kind of sped walked to the truck in case she was to ram it. It'd be the truck, not me. So I sped walked to it. And then she rolled her window down. She was like, no, just start screaming. I was like, hey, like, calm down, like calm down. So she started getting into people over her money, and her dad owns an oil refinery and all types of crazy stuff. While she has in the drive, so I'm trying to be low key because like this is all happening within minutes of each other. I'm just talking to her. I'm just trying to keep her talking. You see what I'm saying? Till y'all get here. So I didn't know if I should step away and call her, but if I stepped away, I would either be in the front or the back of the vehicle. I didn't know what to do. My son's right there in the car. I didn't want her to back up and then ram into the back of it.
For sure.
So I just texted you. So I went back to the
Turn off the car. Turn off the car.
No.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Get out of the car!
Now! Get out of the car! Shots fired. Officer hit. Show your hands. Shots fired. Show your hands.
Wow.
Show your hands. Back up. No, back up. Show me your hands. Fuck, I can't move. We got help coming,
You
James.
can probably
Get
go
there.
ahead and get into this. I think, Rev, you had your hand up first, and then AC.
Yes. Yes. Tactically speaking, I don't know why he parked his car so far away to walk all the way over there. There would have been some between me and her. There would have been a car. It'd have been my car. Now she rammed the car. She rammed the car, but you see, she didn't ram the car. She rammed him, and I just wouldn't have put myself in that kind of position. Even the guy that was talking to her was talking about where he was located. He didn't want to get in front of the car. He didn't want to get behind the car because he don't know what this lady's going to do. Now, it seemed like it's like a well check as far as, just a call to check to see what's going on. Even with that, I would have had my car in between. I just don't understand why he felt he should walk all the way across the parking lot to talk to this lady. I just wouldn't have done that. That's just my thought.
AC.
Oh, David Van
Okay.
Cleef says, wait a minute. David Van Cleef says, if she had been black, these cops exemplified max patience with this suspect. If she had been black. Okay. All right. We always try. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just for the younger cops out there who are still working. First of all, I don't know if she survived or not. The person that was shot. I hope she survived and hope the officer's okay. But did you notice both officers had a gun out and it didn't stop anything? It didn't stop anything. And the car was incapacitated when he shot her. The car couldn't move anymore at that time.
Right.
He said, don't be in a rush to pull your gun out during traffic when the vehicle is moving or able to move. You lose your hands, you get stuck in a position. You don't want to get out the way because you think a gun is a shield. It doesn't stop cars from coming at you. Did anybody notice what the guy who got hit, the officer got hit? What happened to his gun?
Yeah, it fell out of his hand.
Your thoughts, D?
Couple of quick observations and just a couple of things I wanted to say really quick. First of all, it's good to see with our videos how we go from one situation to the other. Hopefully I get to play a video later. So you got to understand we go from a 10 situation to a 1 situation up to an 8 situation and a 3 situation. And it's important to understand law enforcement has to adjust to that each time. The tactics you said here are questionable because, well, let me say this first. When you're called for a mental health case, that's what this is. These are the questions we have. I see, just let me read. I'm sorry. I just want to read a comment. Why didn't you shoot the tires out?
Thank you. I wanted to get to that one. Yeah.
Karen Caffey said that. And why didn't you shoot the gun out of his hand? Why didn't you shoot him in the leg? Why didn't you wing him? That's television, ladies and gentlemen. That's not real life. That's not how it works. To understand from this video to the one before, that gun is only supposed to come out to address a gun situation, right? Those guns are coming out to address different situations. That should be in your holster. All right? The gun shouldn't always come out unless you're addressing a gun situation. So we got to understand that basic rule so then all of those things, why don't you shoot him in the leg or wing him, doesn't come out. The gun isn't for compliance. Now, They walked across the parking lot, and I know you had to say something, Will, maybe to interrupt. You can, but they walked across to deal with a mental health situation. The understanding is why the cops, why they grab the keys, why they open the doors so this doesn't happen. Okay, you're in charge of a weapon. In that case, I'm going to do the guessing about a 4,000-pound, a 2-ton weapon, which could cause bad bodily damage. So when a person is in control of that, and if you think they're having a mental episode, you got to get them out of the car. I just want people to understand why you open the door, why do they grab your keys, why do they do certain things. And it's up to the officer, and think how difficult that is. This is for people in the room know. It's fluid situation. It's constantly moving. I got to assess, reassess to decide how I'm going to handle this situation. Definitely never get in front of a car by any means necessary. Now, she was pulling out, and they had their guns on the car. I don't know. That's a whole discussion. That's not something that we do. Unless the person has a gun, that gun should stand. You can yell all the orders you want. Stop the car. Get out of here. But having your gun out now elevates the situation. And now she literally, intentionally drove into both offices. If you're going to take that action, that firing that firearm came a little too late. She had already made her intentions known. With a lot of times, about 30, 45 seconds, she already made it known, I'm trying to run y'all over. So the discussion with, well, we had to do it when we had to do it. I think David Van Cleef said the color may have had I thought it. A person's race might have something to do with that. They're given more ticks, what we call ticks chances, Jerry. They're giving them more chances. And in this case, more chances for you to get hurt. So I just wanted to bring those couple of things up, tactics and the mental health. You don't know what you're going to get. I dealt with a mental health situation yesterday, right here. You don't know what you're going to get. And it's a 1 situation or it's a 10. And you don't know which. You got to figure that out. And that's not law enforcement's job, y'all. We're supposed to enforce the law. Now we're doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs. We're supposed to figure all that out. We're supposed to, know how to get them to the hospital. And, and that's a part of it's been made a part of our job, but that's really not our job. And that's it.
I'd just like to make a point of clarification for our listeners out there.
The gun.
I know what you meant when you say a gun comes out when a gun comes out, but we all know there are a variety of deadly weapons that would justify.
No. What I said was, please quote me. I said a gun only comes out in a gun situation.
Okay, I got you. Meaning, okay, I'm sorry, my mistake.
I understand. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. Mark, you got me. And Rich, I'll be coming right back to you. Mark's got his hand up.
Yeah, real quick. She was fatally shot. Just wanted to answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Rich?
Yeah, Dee did a good job of covering all those aspects. A couple things I wanted to say, but very good, Dee. The gun coming out, just like AC said, it didn't change the scenario at all. It just made it more dangerous. But it wasn't going to stop that emotionally disturbed person who was trying to run them over. Just lastly, because Dee covered a lot of it, I just wanted to say that once they pull their guns out, now the situation is the background. You had a lot of civilians that were milling about near cars. Once she changed the direction, they were in the background. So that was another dangerous aspect of that happens on the fly. And it's hard to, once that starts getting fluid, to realize there's other danger that's happening when you get people that are out when you pull your guns out. So you got to have an officer to clear people out, get out of the way, get to safety, and not be in the line of fire. Because the way she turned and where they were, those people were in the line of fire. So that's lastly what I said.
Yes, sir, Mark.
Yeah, so that's the problem with dealing with emotionally disturbed people. They're not thinking rationally. Um, if I was to pull a gun on a person who's just having a bad day or did something wrong or whatever, they're going to perceive that threat with the gun one way. But when you are an emotionally disturbed person, like Dee said, it's you don't know. The person may listen all the way to he may be so enraged that you might as well be holding a piece of paper. But the problem is it happens so quickly and you just don't know. And that's why when we've ever dealt with emotionally disturbed persons, we don't know what they're going through. We're not doctors. And even if the doctors were there, they can't immediately assess a person. It's just, and you run up on somebody, if you're an emotionally disturbed person and you go to the doctor, at least they have an idea of why you're there. But when you're on the street, you don't know what happened, and it could be somebody who just killed their family and now they flipped out. I mean, it could be a number of things, but you don't know. And that's the danger that police officers face when we deal with persons who are emotionally disturbed.
For those that are watching and listening, there might be somebody that feels like, and I think I kind of heard this with one or two of our panelists, once the vehicle went up onto that snow mound, which was effectively her weapon, and it appeared as we watched it that her vehicle couldn't move anymore. But that was a very, very quick choice to make to determine whether or not shoot or don't shoot. Is her vehicle completely incapacitated? Does she have the ability to get back off that mound? Given that she has just demonstrated deadly force risk.
Can I just add one thing too? This is another problem that we face as police officers. The angle of where that officer was in connection to shooting into that car, if the bullets kept going, there was a street there and there were people over there. And so that's an added issue that we now have to deal with. We can't always pick and choose the ideal spot to fire our guns to where it doesn't put anybody else in danger. But unfortunately, sometimes those things happen. And like we said, hey, even trying to do the right thing sometimes will work out bad for us.
Teach.
Yeah, on Mark's point, I don't think I don't know if you guys realize there was a child in the car of the gentleman that had stopped to help her. Yeah. He said that his child was inside that car, and that car was right beside her. So yeah, I'm sure the officers hopefully remembered that if they had fired that way while she was in that first position and they missed, it would have gone into that vehicle. And as far as the car being incapacitated, if that's a 4x4, that car could have kept going.
Yeah.
I think it was incapacitated, but they didn't know that, and she didn't know it. She couldn't see the wheels, but they couldn't recognize the wheels. That the mound was under the carriage of the car.
Yeah.
At that time, you can't recognize that, but that's just Monday morning quarterbacking.
Don't please don't start that argument again. Please don't. But Will, Mark said it also about pedestrians on the street and all that stuff. And I'm really talking to Karen Caffey. Why didn't they shoot the tires? And I responded in our chat on Facebook Live that could have fired at the tire, flattened the tire, the bullet ricochet off the ground, hit one of those pedestrians that's standing right there. Now we have another issue, and we've never been trained to shoot at, in New York, we're not trained to shoot at moving vehicles anyway, but definitely not shoot at a tire. That's like saying, why do you, I think someone said it, why do you shoot the gun out the hand? Well, we're not trained to do that either. We're trained to shoot center mass, which is the largest part of the body. So that's the other things that, comes in also. I'm done, Will, but you on mute.
All right. I was just trying to catch up with some of the comments as well. Little multitasking.
Well, you got Mark up there.
Yeah, got Mark. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we all you as our audience often hear we weren't trained to do it. We weren't trained to do it, but we kind of stopped there. So the reason why we're not trained to do certain things is because more can go wrong than go right. Donald talked about the tire. It's a possibility that the tire gets hit at a certain angle, doesn't even deflate, but still ricochets that bullet. Okay. Then you have a rim. If you miss the tire, you have the concrete, which can also deflect the bullet. So there's so many things that can go wrong in our police department's training units. This is why they say, let's not train them to do that, because more can go wrong than go correctly. If I go to shoot the gun out of somebody's hand and I miss, who's behind them? Somebody could be sitting down to breakfast. Dave always brings up that poor kid playing with her Barbie doll in her room, and now that bullet misses the handgun and goes through. You want to aim at what's going to stop the person, center mass, the biggest target that's going to stop that person. That's really the only reason why you're shooting your weapon. It's not to do anything else but to stop the threat that they're giving you as a police officer or the public.
Just to piggyback on what Marcus said, I was going to say, when you fire that weapon, that's supposed to be the end of that problem. When you fire at a car or a hand, it's not the end of the problem. It's actually probably the beginning. And I was going to piggyback on what Mark said. That's all. Mark did it already.
But look what Jim said in our chat. Jim says that cars still move with flat tires. Boy, if that's not the truth. With 4 flat tires.
And on that surface, it actually works for the car's benefit because it's able to get traction with it being flatter, being on that snow and ice.
Yeah. That's true.
Any more thoughts on this one? Well, it looks like our time is drawing tight. D, what, we a minute ahead before the alarm's going to jump off?
You on mute, D.
Yeah, I was trying to multitask too, get 2 videos ready at the same time, depending on whatever Will said. I wanted to be prepared. We're having a good conversation today, and I just I got so you understand, I got 1 million videos queued up, and I wanted to fit what we're talking about. So if you notice, if you think I'm searching at the time we're talking, I am, just so that everything that we fit. So I got this video a couple of weeks ago, and it just fits in what we're talking today. Now, today we talked about mental health, and we saw this young lady having a mental health concern. Let's approach things through some understanding, right? We want to understand the public. Everybody wants police to understand the public. But I want the public to also understand the police officer. If both of us are understanding, we got a shot at this thing happening. Just take a look at this.
We're breaking balls one minute, we're having a good time, and the next minute, boom, one of us is having the worst day of our life, and the other one's dead. Listen to this man.
Get the goddamn dirt! Get out of the fucking dirt! Get out of the fucking dirt! Get out of the fucking dirt!
As true. Somebody in here tell me that man goes home and becomes a loving father and a gentle husband. Tell me that happens after that shift. Tell me that man doesn't go through the rest of his career without some sort of substance abuse problem. Tell me that man, every time he stops a vehicle after that, he doesn't see his best friend dead at the front of that vehicle. And while he's trying to talk to the driver and the driver is giving him an attitude, he caps off on the driver and gives him some back. And now he's the asshole and he's being written up because of the way he just treated one of these people out here. That's what administration's doing. We're writing people up, but what are we not doing? We're not talking to our people, and we're not sitting them down and asking them, what's going on with you? And we need more of that.
I'll say this about that, and I any call that I've gone to, and you get that attitude that they don't like the fact that we're there. I'll tell folks real quick, if you exercise the same measure of discretion and de-escalation that you expect from law enforcement, there's a good chance we wouldn't have been in your business to begin with. What you got, D?
Something I usually say when I teach about law enforcement response is, and I think I said it earlier, we have to handle things with understanding. You don't know what those people are going through before you get there. As a police officer, I get that. I don't know what I'm walking into. The radio's telling me one thing. I might hear something else. The people are screaming, and I got to figure out how to be objective in that situation. What I want to do is I want to turn that lens the other way. There are times that we may go through a shooting. We don't get to go home, right? Especially if you're just assisting. A lot of times the next call comes in, it's an accident, and there's a baby gone. And then the next call is just somebody stuck on the side of the road. And then the other call is the old lady want to get the cat out the tree. And then the next call is somebody hurting their wife or their daughter. And that's out every day. That was every day out there. And you have to understand, if the person you're saying, I don't know where this person came from a call, so let me be calm. Let me give him the information so he can address the problem so we can get out of here, instead of thinking, I'm going through something. He should understand. The law enforcement officer said, I'm going through something. They should understand. And then we have a loss of life because nobody's actually understanding. So that video is a good depiction of understanding the ebbs and flows of everybody's life every day. In regular life, Don might be going through something. I might be going through something. We deal with each other like we might be going through something. Melba might be going through something. I'm dealing with it like Melba. That's the way we have to treat each other. Instead of going out and saying, it's Dee's world, it's Cheech's world, and them two worlds come together, I got to get the most of it that I can, and then we're going to have problems. We got to start treating each other better. That's what this show is about.
So from an administrative point of view, now I'm speaking to the officers. If you're going through something, talk to your supervisors. Don't swallow it. Don't just deal with it. Donald has said a few times in the past that when he was having a bad day and he got to work, he wasn't pulling people over because he knew he was already at 9 from something that happened before he even got to work. So he wasn't going to put himself in a situation where he may react to a person that didn't deserve it. And that's a good way of thinking. So, you can't always just rely on administration to come to you and say what's wrong. And Will, that's a great thing that you did, talking to that officer. However, on the flip side, we have to recognize what we're going through, because D may show up and, D's cool. So I may not be able to read him to know that, he had a really crappy day. And it's incumbent on D to come to me. Hey, Mark, I'm going through some stuff right now. It's probably not good to whatever. And hey, I got enough people, D, go home. Use your comp time, go home. Mel, come inside, work inside. I'll bug you for the rest of the day, which I did anyway. But, you got to police yourself, and you got to understand we're human. And we may have bad days. And that supervisor, if you don't let him know before it gets to that point, that's on you.
And Mark, you make an excellent point about that from all perspectives, whether it's something observed from administrative level, or you recognize it in yourself at the line level, or a supervisor recognizes it in their mid-level supervision capacity. You gotta sometimes ask people, how are you really doing? Don't just be asking just to get the regular standard answer. AC, what's up?
Also, not just while you're working, you gotta not take it home. Figure out, decompress, go work out,
Don't go to the bar all night. Figure out something to do to get home without that stress. Yeah, 'cause it's I know I tried all of it, but when you're lucky enough to see a child be born in front of you, and then 10 minutes later somebody's spitting on you. That drastic mindset, and you get that cleaned up, and get that out your head, and all of a sudden you have a fatal accident. That mindset, it's hard to go from place to place to place and deal with those things individually. So you have to decompress somehow, and by the time you learn how to do it, it's too late in your career. You're too old to realize it. Just make sure you start doing it early. Take care of yourself beforehand, not just physically but mentally also.
Yeah.
Ty had his hand up.
Oh, okay.
And just to pick up on AC really fast, all that stuff he said happens to us, we don't get to go home. We got to strap it up, get back in post one, and go to the next call.
Wash your hands.
I'm just saying.
Also, since we were discussing that, I think Cheech, you mentioned a while ago that it was your coworkers that saw something with you and brought it to your attention to where you did what you had to do to correct that. So it's also coworkers looking after coworkers.
Now for each other.
Peers and EAP, and if you have a department chaplain, there's other resources you can reach out to that might give you a little comfort, some help if you can't totally compartmentalize what you've gone through.
Absolutely. Well, we're at the end, D.
Yeah,
I mean,
our time is tight, and it's been a great discussion today. I will say this, just for in the event this we'll circle back around later. I was really hoping we get around to having this discussion or this comment from the perspective of one of the ladies, because the way men process and the way women process, yes, we're all in law enforcement, but the way men process and the way women process, what we recognize and what they recognize, there are some subtle differences.
Yes.
Kind of hoping that we had the opportunity to hear from some of the ladies, but we'll circle probably this issue will come back up somewhere down the line, and hopefully we can purpose to actually hear some of their perspective on that.
And I think you're pretty much correct, Will. And I know you're talking from experience because you're in law enforcement, your wife's in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you're like, hey, well, I wouldn't handle it that way. I would have done this. I'm sure you've been there, but just in life by itself, the way the wife or the husband handles things will be different. They will be different. So good thought. I think that would be a great discussion. I really do. Yeah. I really do think that would be a great discussion. And it don't have to be limited to police. No. It could just be limited. It could be just like how, men are from and women are from.
That's an everyday thing. That's an everyday thing.
What's that book? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, or something like that?
I think that's the way it goes, yeah.
Yeah, so
Jerry is nodding in definite agreement there.
Well, listen. Well, our time is up, and I don't know if D did have a.
No, we're good. We're good. Go ahead.
You sure? Okay. All right. Will, again, thank you so much for leading us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
We're gonna be up to air in a second. I want to see who wants to lead us next week. There's another situation going on. But thank you guys so much. Thank you guys from Facebook Live. Thank you so much, D, as always, with our tech. Thank you so much. And listen, ladies, we need to hear your voices. Because you do have an opinion. No, I know, but we got you, Melba Blocker. You good? Don't worry about it. But no, we got you. We got you. You one of the boys. You one of the boys. No, but on a serious note, because your perspective is very important. And there's probably a female listener that said, "Well, what do the women think?" And just so y'all know, we did not tell them they couldn't speak. They can say whatever they want to say, And Kyle's gonna come in for the heavy stuff. Just just give you a heads up for that. Kyle's sitting back there waiting for the heavy stuff that the rest of us probably can't even talk about. Kyle don't even know how many times we be talking saying we wish Kyle was here. You know, we wish Kyle was here to answer that question because she was in charge of the DA's office. She is an attorney, or the chief, bureau chief, which is for me is the same thing. It's almost like Mark was the chief too. He was the chief of the department. He was the chief. But thank you guys so much for joining in and for your input. Again, we don't always have something to say. Sometimes some of us have something to say every time something's being said, and that's fine too. That's what the show's for. No, I'm saying it. That's what the show is for. Input. Put it in there. Let us know. Again, Will, thank you. Cheech, we're still praying for you. Melba Blocker, thank you so much. I'm gonna enjoy this for a little bit. So I'm Melba Blocker. look at he highlighted her. You highlighted her.
His
But
family.
again, thank you to all of you. David Van Cleef, thank you. You had a lot of input today. We appreciate it. Donald Coleman, thank you so much. Eva, Ruth Caffey, Karen Caffey, Eric Jones, thank you so much. Colleen Bull, happy birthday. Also to who else we have on here? I know I had let's see, Beverly Harrison Wells. She's always with us, guys. Thank you for your participation, your input. I'm trying to just not. My wife is with us. Thank you for joining, and she's like I said, she's going through with her, with her mother in the hospital. So we're gonna keep her in prayer. Eva, that's one of my members at my church, along with Ruth Caffey, and I'm gonna recruit Karen Caffey. But thank you so much, and we just appreciate you guys joining us. And share this with your family, share this with your friends, put it on your Facebook page. Share. Go to YouTube. Share. Show it on YouTube and like our YouTube page so that we can keep on growing and keep on growing. We're almost at the 5th year. Next month, the first Wednesday in June is somewhere around June 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere around that time is when we actually started our show. We started on Wednesdays and we moved from Wednesday to Thursday. Because it was, Wednesday night is my Bible study and we was having issues with that. So we moved it, but we're going on 5 years doing this. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm enjoying this. I'm all these people have been my friends already, but now they've really become more of a friend. Matter of fact, let me change that. They become more of a family. Because we talk about stuff now that maybe we didn't talk about before because we trust each other. So we thank God for them and their families, and we're praying for each and every one of you. If that's it, I'm gonna close us out in prayer, and we'll go from there. Look at Kyle. Kyle throwing up the. Go ahead, Kyle. She's learning too. Melba learned something today. Kyle's over here playing with this. Man, we doing all right. Go ahead, Jerry. Your turn. Give us something.
I'm sorry.
Jerry's got it. Jerry's got it. I'm telling you.
There you go. There you
Jerry's
go.
with me on Wednesday nights in my Bible study. She got it. But listen, thank you all for your input. Let us pray. God our Father, we thank you. God our Father, we praise you. We're praying to God for those who are sick, those who are shut in, those who are grieved by the hands of death. We're praying for JT and his wife, AC and his wife, Cheech and his wife. We're praying for all that are here today. We're praying for Melba as she takes care of a situation on this week. Pray to God that you will hold her hand and be with her as she goes through this situation. Thank you for everything that you've done for us, everything that you're doing for us, and thank you for Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. Thank you for the idea. Thank you for the support. And thank you for allowing us to move on for these last 5 years. We thank you now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.